everybody, and welcome to Ascend the Hill. I'm Jeremy Austill. I'm here again with Pastor Gunnar, and we're on a bit of a roll several times now that we've sat down and had conversations. The focus of this podcast week after week is a bit of a recap of Sunday's message, coupled with maybe some conversation around what's going on in society, or just some dovetails off of the message. And so we got a couple of areas that we're going to focus on that the message kind of inspired. So if you haven't listened to Sunday's message, it was the first in a new series entitled Jesus Said It, where I talked from when Jesus said, if you don't carry your cross, you can't be my disciple, in its simplest form. So go back and listen to that. Also, while you are listening, like, subscribe, review, rate, whatever pops up on your screen, because the more you interact with this, the better we have an understanding of not only who's listening, how much people are listening, but when you're listening, what is the most compelling, so that we can stay in a sweet spot of conversation that you're actually wanting to hear. So anyway, Pastor Gunnar, I know that you sent me a text, but I'll just be transparent with you. I can't even remember what was in that text right now. So how about you?
Okay.
And just for the side note for everybody listening, the last few weeks he's been sending me a text on the day of with like, hey, let's talk on these topics. Hey, this is how we'll open. And today was just one of those days. I saw it, I read it, I thought, okay, and then I didn't remember.
I think you thumbs upped it too.
I did. I interacted with it.
You did interact. No, it's all right. I'll steer here. But
okay.
As we sit here, we're on the second floor. All of our teenagers are downstairs.
Yes.
Getting ready to load on the bus and go to camp.
Yes.
The memories, right? So that's what I want to, let's open. You spent 12 summers?
10. Well, 10 summers. It would have been 11, except we had the COVID summer.
Yeah. So 10 summers out at camp.
Yep.
So what are some of the funniest memories?
Oh man, the problem with the memories that are the funniest is they're usually, somewhat grotesque, or they're somewhat, I remember one day everything fell apart, and in retrospect, it was hilarious. But we had a camp nurse that got out of the golf cart and just crumbled and shattered, and her ankle broke. Not funny, but it happened. And we're trying to help her get on the golf cart to get medical treatment. And then simultaneously, some other girl's like, hey, I just got a concussion. And we're like, okay, first, we were doing tug of war, so I'm not sure how you got a concussion. Second, if you can self-diagnose, you ain't got a concussion.
Right.
But we had that going on. And then another girl just laid down. I mean, this is all happening within a 10-minute span, and she's acting like she's a goner. Well, come to find out, she just hadn't gone to the bathroom number 2 all week, and her body was, I guess, shutting down on her. So we just had a lot happening, and that was kind of camp in a nutshell, right there.
I think we were working that year.
You might have been.
I think I was.
It was absolute chaos.
That and the tug of war trenches.
Yes.
Were unbelievable.
Yes, we dug trenches. We got it. We had somebody come out and dig waist high ditches out on a part of the camp. We filled them with water, and it was an ordeal. We don't have much water pressure at camp. No. So, I mean, it would take
2 days to fill them.
Yeah, 2 days to fill them. You were probably the one
I was the one
responsible for that. And then we'd put them in there with the tug of war rope and just tug of war away. I don't even know if there was enough room to actually pull the other team. It was just like, you're getting in the mud, you're going to pull around, it'll be fun.
It wasn't like traditional tug of war where you could like move your feet. It was like you had to literally pull the rope.
Yeah. You had to like take the rope pretty much. I mean, you could pull back some, and we were always having to adjust the numbers to make sure it was fair, because one side was a little elevated, and so they were pulling uphill. I mean, it was a clown show.
I shared my views on tug of war a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, you did. Yeah, rope chafe.
Yeah, rope chafe, because they always put the big folk in the back. But one of the years that we worked with you, I feel like kids camp was always like, some of them kids were unhinged.
Oh yeah, I mean, and then they get there they've got adult supervision, but not necessarily the up close and personal parental supervision. Right. So they're in the line for the Snack Shack. I mean, they're buying so many nerd ropes, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and what's the candy that's like the strings that Sour Punch
Oh,
straws? I
yeah.
mean, they're buying so much sugar,
Fire.
drinking so much carbonated
Oh,
beverage
yeah.
and slushies. I mean, they're out of their minds.
Out of their minds. So one of the years we were working with you, I don't know if you remember this. One of the leaders came over and said that there was an ordeal in the dorm. So
Oh.
you sent myself and Sam Curtis over there,
Okay.
and some kid went to the bathroom, and instead of flushing and being done with it, got it out of the bathroom and ran down the hallway with it against the wall.
My gosh, I don't even remember this.
You don't remember that? And it's like somebody took a marker down the wall. And Sam Curtis and I had to clean it.
Incredible.
We were over there with bleach rags.
Incredible.
I mean, in the moment, it was not fun. It was disgusting. But when you look back, it's like, I cannot believe that happened.
Well, I mean, this is what I say. Like, most of the funny stories are kind of gross. You know, there's the bathroom that is in the gym / sanctuary. And one time, I guess a kid misfired in there, and there was a splattering of feces all over the wall above the toilet. And it's like, how'd you even
do that?
I mean, it just like, you know, like a mortar fire. Like, you know, they have like a mortar and they're like cranking it and getting the right degree angle, whatever the case.
Descriptive.
So I sent an intern or two in there to clean that. I mean, it was always stuff like
something.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always some kind of chaos, but that's just what happens. But at the same time, you know, we got parents that might be listening. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sending my kids.
Right.
They're going to be feral when they get back." But at the same time, I mean, it was a controlled environment. You know, there was things were always safe. People were always protected. But yeah, you get a bunch of kids in a space and just goofy stuff is going to happen.
One of my favorite things was even interning, and then I went one year last year to kids camp.
Okay.
Is the way that kids in particular will be getting wrecked in the altar.
Yeah.
I mean, just all in, like crying. They're lifting their hands, they're worshiping, and then they'll just stop and just be like, "When's the concession stand open?"
Oh yeah, they're done.
It's just like, and you're like, I don't know, 30 more minutes, and then they're right back at it, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, one night we were leading them to receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit at kids camp, and I mean, at kids camp it's different. Like, I'm half police and half minister, and it's just a little bit of everything. I feel like I'm the authority in the room, got to keep everything managed. And so, you know, some of the kids are in the altar, some are in the seats. So I kind of walk back in the seats, just monitoring. And these two little boys are fighting. I mean, they're like grabbing a hold of each other, wrestling around, scuffling. And of course, I break them up, quit this mess. So you sit here, you sit there. I go back up, and I give another call. If you've never been baptized in the Holy Spirit, well, here the two little boys come, standing right there in the front, and they get touched by God and filled with the Holy Spirit after they're scuffling in the seats. And so, yeah, kids camp, but youth camp too. I mean, there was always something happening. And it was a great 10 summers. The memories, at this point, the memories are less distinct. You know, I can't tell you what this year this happened. It's just this big compilation of a feeling of, man, that was a really precious time, and I absolutely loved leading camps. But simultaneously, I get asked, do I miss it? And I don't at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's grace. You know, there was a real grace on Michelle and I to do that. It was really hard. I mean, you worked it as an intern. It's a brutal
grind.
It's a brutal way to spend your summer, just as far as the hours, the pace, the stress, the strain. But I always had a grace for it and loved it and had plenty of energy for it. But now the thought of going out there, I'm glad Pastor Brooks Till and Brittany are doing it, and the baton has been passed, and they're running with it, and they're doing a great job. And again, we sent our kids. I mean, my son and daughter getting on the bus to go. So
I love it. Yeah, this is my first time in 11 or 12 summers not sleeping out there.
yeah,
So it's kind of like we've gone out there a couple times. We'll go out there. I'm going out there tomorrow to see our
yeah,
group,
yeah.
But it's like, man, I just enjoy my bed.
Right.
It's like I don't have to sleep on that. I don't even know what plastic rubber on the top of the mattress.
Yeah. Those were not high quality mattresses. No. I mean, at one point they were like, "Hey, we got everybody memory foam mattress." It's like, but did we?
And it's still covered in the blue.
Yeah, did we?
So we started a new series.
Yes.
It was so good. First kind of kickoff, and it was Father's Day too.
I know. It was a good day.
It was a really good day. Altar responses in both service with men was incredible.
Yes.
So good.
I'm appreciative to our men who, when I asked them to move forward, they did without hesitance. It was just great to see the action. And it wasn't a message directed toward men. I just probably took the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of it and turned it to put an emphasis on what a cornerstone man is.
Yeah.
Just an emphasis on the kind of men we believe God is raising up here. And it was just a powerful response to hear the men praying. I mentioned it in the 10:30 service, and it was probably the same in the 8:30. It just kind of hit me in the 10:30. Once we had all the men in the altars, you look out and see the ladies that remain in the seats, and you realize, man, it's pretty close to 50-50. I'm sure it's not exactly, but which was super encouraging of the makeup of our church.
Yeah.
In a stereotypical scenario, the percentage of men is lower. So anyway, it was a powerful day. We had, we had a great worship moment in the 10:30 service, and we did in the 8:30 too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a really good moment in 8:30 service too. And so I was really pleased with how the day went. And I'm not it's Father's Day, let's preach a Father's Day message. It's Mother's Day, let's preach that's not really even on Easter, I kind of buck the trend because I'm going to preach a gospel message, not necessarily just a empty tomb message.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but it turned, and I think because it was Father's Day, the men in the room were ripe. They're ready. And I hope it was challenging in all the right ways.
Well, you started your message by putting a hat on.
Yes, I did.
Because and you kind of opened saying this will be one of my more legalistic sounding messages.
Yeah.
And so you put the hat on to kind of balance
right.
what I'm going to say with how I'm looking. And but you made this statement in kind of in the middle section of your sermon. A legalistic gospel is dangerous. A cheap grace gospel is more dangerous.
Yes.
So I just want to talk for a moment on legalism, cheap grace, and holiness.
Yeah.
And just kind of get your feeling and what you're.
Well, let me ask you first. Like, you hear that, how does that hit you? Because that statement, I really wrestled with whether I should put that statement in there or how to word that, because we put it on the screen too. Because I'm not interested in a legalistic gospel either.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to elevate the value or quality of legalism. I think I just wanted more to highlight what I think is more dangerous, which is say a little prayer and go kind of live how you want to.
Yeah.
So how'd that hit you?
I mean, I thought it was spot on. I mean, I feel like I gravitate that way, but the way that I wrap my head around is I have to define the terms.
Yes.
It's like that helps me pull my focus into it. So I wrote my definitions.
I'd like to hear it.
So I would define legalism as placing obedience before salvation.
Okay.
So, and it's even in one of the books that I'm reading right now, they use this example of it would be like Moses making the Israelites sign the 10 Commandments before crossing the river, before crossing the sea. Like, you're going to sign the dotted line on what I'm telling you to do before I deliver you. And then I would define cheap grace as actually, this is Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Yeah,
the preaching of forgiveness.
Yes, go for
without the need for
Say
repentance.
it again. I interrupted.
No, you're good. The preaching of forgiveness without the need for repentance.
Yeah.
And so when I think about your statement, it's like, yes, like I feel.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is big for me is the holy living and living that right way. because it's what we've been called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Be holy, for I am
Right.
holy. And I think we swing our pendulum so far on either end,
Right.
Legalism or the cheap grace option. But I'm after holiness and
Yeah.
living a holy, laid down life. And I feel like if that's our pursuit, then yes, for a lot of people, I will gravitate more towards the legalistic side, and I won't be as much like cheap grace. But I know where I stand.
Yeah.
In the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I think that when people are really pursuing holiness, I just feel like there's even a grace on that.
Yeah.
Because it can get a little, especially on the legalism side of you kind of beat yourself up if you don't hit the mark.
Right.
But I think when you're really pursuing living that kind of lifestyle of holiness, I feel like the Lord gives us a grace on it.
Yeah.
And I think he's a lot more patient than we realize,
Yeah.
And so, but I thought that statement was just so good because I think a cheap grace, it's one of the things that as a pastor, but as somebody who didn't grow up in church, it kind of burns me up a little bit.
Okay.
It's that, you can believe and that's enough.
Yeah.
You can live how you want, act how you want, but grace covers it.
Right.
Right. And it's okay, yes, his grace is sufficient, but that doesn't give me a license to do what I want.
Right.
It doesn't give me the, I think of Paul when he writes, he says, one of the, just the language and words he uses, he's if you sin, to me, that implies, okay, so that it is possible for me to live a holy life. But I think that we're very selfish.
Yeah.
And so it's I want to live how I want to live. I want to do the things I want to do. And then I just will slap grace on top and be good so that I can feel good about where I'm going to spend eternity.
Right.
I know that's very but that's how it kind of burns me up because it's he gave everything for me and that we just want to do the bare minimum.
Well, that's at the end of the 10:30 service. I communicated something that wasn't in my notes. It just kind of hit me in the moment. Because again, I was talking about this free gift of salvation, and I probably would need to go back to nail it, verbatim. But the gist of it was, this is what salvation is. I am so blown away at the lavish generosity of God, who owns salvation, and He freely offers it to me. That now that I've been given this free thing, it is so amazing. I'm now willing to give everything I have because of what I've received. It's that thing, I think I alluded to it, of, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. And, a lot of times you get something free and it's well, yeah, it was.
It's free.
Yeah, it was free.
A free T-shirt. It's it's the cheapest T-shirt you can find.
This thing's giving me hives. It's like chafing my underarms, right? But this free thing that God has done for us is so unbelievable that the only appropriate response to it is, now that I've received it, I'll give everything away to it. I surrender everything to it. And if I'm not in the process, not having accomplished all of it, but if I'm not in the process of giving everything away to Him, surrendering then do I really have a true understanding and revelation of this gift of salvation? And so that's I think my ultimate takeaway. Like you said, and I've talked about my dad before with what I call Southern religion, where he thought he had to kind of get himself together, and he would even say, how can I be a Christian? I got this crew of guys that work for me, and I mean they're some of the most depraved people on the planet. They're murderers, they're fornicators to the nth degree, and I have to handle them rough. I can't be a Christian and handle them.
Yeah.
And so he was getting the cart before the horse, and so I have a real sensitivity to that. But yes, to define legalism, to me, it's when you begin to add rules, heap guilt, heap condemnation, and you create a perspective of salvation where it is as delicate and fickle as your ability to keep the rules. That's dangerous because none of us perfectly keep the rules. And so you can just spin out in a cycle of self-loathing. You can spin out in a cycle of shame, of guilt. But that other side, cheap grace, to me is a mockery of God. It's a mockery of what he's done to say, well, he saved me, but there are no borders, there are no expectations. Not only, and it is just a willful, self-centered, self-indulgent sticking of our head in the sand when it comes to Scripture. I alluded to it, like it is really bad theology. It's really bad doctrine if we think there are no works, acts, or expectations within the context of salvation. Jesus said too much. He created too many clear points of communication of what somebody that follows him should look like. And then you have all the epistles that are laying out over and over again. This is what a Christian looks like. This is how we live. This is what we do. You know, but it is the understanding of I'm on the journey. I'm following Jesus. I'm carrying my cross. It's a walk of death, you know. And legalism would say, no, you got to have it all perfect right now. The right perspective is, no, I am on the way and I'm just letting it go as I go. So anyway, that statement, because it was almost in some ways a validation of legalism. And I'll just admit, I can skew toward rule following. And in the sense of, if you put the scales out, like my expectations for the people around me is pretty high, but I have weighted expectations. Man, if you got pastor by your name, bro, my expectations are really, really high. You know, it's almost like depending on where you are in life too. I mean, if you, I don't know. I say that I would tilt toward legalism, but man, my mind's going to many occasions, even right now, that I'm operating in way more mercy and grace, even to the extent that some people think I'm being too merciful or too gracious, you know? And so I don't know. Can't please everybody.
Right. Well, I just think on the, the cheap grace, I remember I went to Tennessee Tech my freshman year of college, and, any public university has a plethora of on-campus ministries, and so I remember eating lunch so my roommate was not saved when I got to school, and that was kind of like my objective, So he ends up giving his life to Christ.
Come on.
My freshman year. And so I would eat lunch with him every day. That was kind of our thing. We'd go to the cafe. And I remember sitting in the cafe, and one of the on-campus missionary, he wasn't really a missionary, he was just an on-campus guy. He walked over our table, and he's like, "Can I ask y'all a question? How do you get to heaven?" Obviously he's asking a loaded question. Yeah. And I didn't give him an answer. I was like, why don't you just tell me what you're coming to say anyway?
Go ahead and witness to us.
Right. And
have
so
at it.
He was like a one-liner, and I don't know if he was like expecting to like drop the mic and walk off. He was like, the Bible says all you have to do is believe.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like 18.
Yeah.
I really was freshly saved, and I was like that's it. Like I can do whatever I want after that.
Even the demons believe.
Yes.
That's what the Bible says.
Yeah. And it's like, so on your point of, faith without works. And, even Jesus, I think, saying, pick up your cross.
Yeah.
Okay. That implies work. First of all, I carried that cross out on Sunday for your illustration. It was heavy. All right. Like
you and Pastor Herb was doing work.
Like it requires some work. Like it requires me stepping towards him and doing things, living, choosing how to live, the right way to live, the right things to do. But I always think about that on the pendulum swing. All you have to do is believe. It's like, well, a lot of people do.
Oh yeah.
Even even what you're saying.
Well, they can believe in Jesus and be like, well, and I believe, Muhammad had something to him. I believe Buddha had something to him. You believe in, and biblically believing Like we here believe, and it's like Santa Claus. Like, do you believe in Santa Claus or not? You know, it's this mental exercise, but the biblical context for the word believe implies a trajectory of life that is oriented completely around that belief.
Yeah.
And so the Bible doesn't mean believe the way we tend to use it. You know, do you believe me or not? Sure, I believe. You know,
Yeah.
belief biblically means an orientation of life. And so the whole idea of if you believe, and I come back to, and I probably didn't lean into it too much this week. I might lean into it this coming Sunday, but you don't hear a lot, and I'm not blaming the church for this. Really, I'm talking more about how people in society kind of hijack Jesus and use Jesus to manipulate Christians. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
That the world around us now kind of hijacks Jesus to manipulate Christians into passivity or into confusion. But because I hear a lot of pastors saying, like, very clear teaching on holiness, right living. I don't think I'm the one and only, or there's only a few. I'm not like Elijah going, nobody else, everybody else has bowed their knee to Baal. No,
Yeah.
God's like, no, I got 7,000. You ain't that big a deal, dog. You know, so I don't think I'm that big a deal. But there is a repulsion in society to the idea that Jesus would tell someone, you are excluded. You are not included. Like society is repulsed by that. And even within the church, there is a degree of cringe with that idea, because we live in a society that has tried so hard all the way back to, 30, 40 years ago, the assault was on absolute truth. I mean, you don't even hear that conversation now, because everybody's truth is their truth, my truth, right? That's not even a topic. But I remember early in my Christianity, in my early years, when I'm starting to be able to cognitively, intellectually process things, that there was this massive assault on absolute truth. There is no absolute truth. There's a myriad of truth. And so now we're in a society that when you get really definitive, there is a rebellion or a rejection of it. And that the church is in that society. And unfortunately, a lot of times through our scrolling and through what we take in, and it doesn't happen automatically. You just kind of become the environment around you kind of seeps into you unless you're really vigilant. But Jesus, it was really important to me to show the parable of the great feast.
Yeah, it was so good.
Where he ends with the ones that resisted the invite, they don't get any of it.
Yeah.
You know, that there was a line drawn. Like, they turn their nose up at me, they're out.
Right.
And then to come back and look at a crowd following him and say, you cannot be my disciple.
Yeah.
If you won't do this. And then he tells them two examples of counting the cost.
Yeah.
Basically, like, if you think you're going to roll with me, there's a price. There is a cost, and you need to consider it. And I think we would do well in the church. That's why I think this series is important, because Jesus said it. It's not me.
Right.
I'm not, you're cherry picking one verse. Well, it's 3 different moments in the Gospels.
Yeah.
Pick up your cross and follow me. Jesus said you can't love both God and money. Like, he draws a lot of lines in the sand. The rich young ruler, the rich young man, how do I get in heaven? Keep the commandments. Oh, I do all those. Great. Take everything you own, sell it, and then you can follow me. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. So, well, you can't be with me. Right. Jesus does reject people. And he doesn't just reject, and I'm going to talk about this Sunday, like, we have built in our victim-oriented society, like, we have created a victimized society. And in our victim-oriented society, we have created this class of people that Jesus was not for, but he was for everybody else. And so the class of people in the Bible that Jesus was not for was the Pharisees and the religious, but he was for everybody else. And then we'll do that in today's society by saying Jesus is not for the leader. He is not for the person with money. He's not for the person with power. He is for all the victims, right? But Jesus is talking to a crowd, and this crowd wasn't Pharisees. You know, that he was drawing a line into saying for your everyday Joe and Sally, right? I think we've hijacked Jesus in so many ways, and we have created our own version of him. And so, like, yeah, Jesus can't stand the government, but I can kind of do what I want.
Right.
Like, Jesus is Jesus is in speaking truth to power. He ain't gonna speak truth to me.
Right.
And so there's something in the sermon Sunday that just felt important to me, that Jesus confronts us. He challenges us. And I don't think we can win a society by just being compassionate. The truth sets us free. Compassion doesn't set us free.
That's really good.
Empathy doesn't set people free, unless it's empathy fueled by truth. And the release of empathy is for the purpose of reorienting the person's life to what can be helpful and good.
Yeah, it's so good.
I have to be empathetic. I have to be compassionate. If I'm not, I don't have the heart of Jesus. If I can't feel with somebody, if I can't be grieved for somebody, then I don't have the heart of Jesus. But it's the next layer. It's only truth that actually brings them freedom. Yeah. And I remember Heath Adamson. I don't know exactly what his job is now. It's been a few months since we've communicated, but he was the chief of staff, probably still is, at Convoy of Hope. Convoy of Hope's the ultimate compassion organization on the planet, right? Mm-hmm. But he would say, like, if we give a people compassion with no truth, we have just given them a better brand of misery. Oh, oof. So there you have it.
Man, that's kind of weighty.
Yeah, I'm got to get Heath here to preach.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be so good.
I got to get him here. So obviously I'm not a big guest speaker guy. I got great preachers on my team. And then somebody came to me this week, precious person in our congregation, said, Pastor, don't worry about being likable. Because, we kind of talked transparently about that. Don't worry about being likable. Just preach the word. We don't need you to be likable. We need you to be our pastor. I thought, my hands are lifted right now. I'm feeling set free, right? Likewise, I don't bring a lot of guest speakers because I get paid by the church and I feel like I should be working. Right. And so I don't know what you call that. Like, I'm working through my sense of responsibility. Michelle and my mom both say I take too much responsibility for everybody else. And so anyway, that's an irrelevant tangent. No, you're good. Anyway, you got anything else? Jonathan, how are we on time? All right, 30. Yeah, there we go. So you got anything else?
Well, you kind of alluded to it while you were talking about that there's a cost to this.
Yes.
But I think in our society, we're very selfish.
Yeah.
We're very self-oriented.
And I'm, sometimes I feel like I am the chief of these.
Yeah.
I am, I don't know how other people would see me, but I am very aware of my selfishness. It's a bone of contention with me. I don't know. You probably wouldn't think I'm that way. Most people wouldn't, but man, I have a grief in my heart at the thought that I am in certain, and not that I might be, I know I am in certain areas. Anyway, go ahead.
No, in that point, years ago, you and I were talking, I think I may have been an intern, and you had made the comment about when you had kids was the day you figured out how selfish you were.
Oh, golly.
And so I remember that, went into having our kids with that, and then realized, oh my gosh, I'm selfish. Like,
Yes.
I am very self-centered.
Yes.
And so when we think about the thought of this is going to cost me something,
Mm-hmm.
most people just stop there.
Yeah.
Because we're so self-oriented.
Right.
And I think it's the book I'm reading now or the last book that they all run together. I feel like it talked about, in our selfish nature, the thing that we want is autonomy.
Yeah.
Like we want to govern ourselves. We want
Yes.
to rule ourselves. But when we submit to the lordship of Christ, we now become a reflection of him. And reflections don't get autonomy.
No.
Reflections don't get that right.
No.
And I remember reading that a couple of weeks ago and thinking, oh my gosh, like in my selfish nature, I've been fighting for my own autonomy.
Yes.
My own right to have my ways, my opinions. And it's like, then when I read that, it's like, I'm a reflection of him.
Yeah.
I lost that right. And so then when I lose that, it's like, all right, well then I can't get mad at certain things or irritated with certain, because it's like, I've lost kind of that privilege.
Yeah.
And, but I think a lot of us, I know for myself, like we clam up at the thought of losing control.
Uh-huh.
And so that kind of the cost thing, I think throws a lot of us off because it's like, oh,
yeah,
I don't know if I want to lose control, or I don't know if I want to lose my right to do certain things or act a certain way. But I think that, and I've said this on the podcast before, if we see that he's on the other side of me giving this up, like me giving up my right for this or my privilege for this, it's really not a sacrifice for me.
Right.
Like if he's the reward for all that I give up, I think of the rich young ruler, like, well, go give it all away. Oh, if I know he's on, you can have all of it,
right.
But I think that we struggle with that. I think we struggle with that kind of shift of like, okay, if he's the reward, then I don't need any of this other stuff.
Well, I'm a believer that as we increase in our discovery of him, we decrease on our grip of ourselves. Meaning the things that I'm holding on to, the areas I want control, the prices I don't want to pay, are because I've not discovered him to the degree that I realize like what I'm holding on to is inferior in value compared to what I have in front of me. And so I do believe that you almost, momentum, if you will, there's something that starts slow and then it just picks up speed. And now there's just a momentum to it. And it's almost happening without any extra. And I feel like in the life of following Jesus, there is a momentum that's attached because you begin to discover the Lord more and more and more, and he grows in status and stature to you. And it becomes, I don't like using the word easier, but I don't have a better one, but it becomes, so I'll just use it. It becomes easier to let go and to surrender and pay prices along the way because I am becoming increasingly acquainted with him.
Yeah. And
my revelation of him is expanding. And so where we might feel like right now, my gosh, I am having a hard time paying this price. If we could figure out how to pay it.
Yeah.
Just almost get in a momentum of surrender. And I'm not there. Like I'm still on the journey of that. I'm kind of, in so many ways, like I'm rediscovering myself in this role of pastor in this church.
Yeah.
And that sounds like really self-centered, like you're rediscovering yourself. Yeah, like in the sense of I'm becoming aware of areas that I need to let go and grow and die. Yeah. It's like all over again, kind of like when you had kids and you realize that, well, now that I'm in a new role, I've kind of hit a pocket of that same thing again.
I preached on a Wednesday night when we were in James, and it's kind of this, when I view myself in comparison to him and how great he is and how majestic, like I realize, I got a lot of faults, like I had a lot of failures. And so I think when we view ourselves that way, it should push us into that.
Yeah.
Kind of that okay, well, I need to go back to the drawing board. I still got stuff I got to work. When I compare myself.
Yeah.
I still have stuff I need to work through.
And you know, that I say this from, 40 years of being in the faith. When I become aware of my deficiencies, I don't really plunge into guilt, shame. I've kind of gotten to the place where I don't go there. I'm not defeated. I'm not. My heart swells with just kind of appreciation and awe that he's the whole time he's been watching, going, "Yep," but he hadn't left me.
Yeah.
He hadn't walked away. He hasn't given up on me.
Yeah.
And now I have this framework of when I see a deficiency, when his light shines on a deficiency, like I know what to do with it. I bring it to him and I just start like, Lord,
Yeah.
I see it. I repent of it. Like, help me grow past it. It's almost exciting for me now. Like when I say like I'm rediscovering, there's an excitement in me because I know that if he's revealing it, he's working. And on the other side of that, there's an increase of him. There is a greater capacity for his purposes. Mm-hmm. So like when that stuff's revealed, it's not bad boy. Right. You know, you're being punished. Like there's an okay. Well, he ain't quit on me. He's still working. And I would maybe say this, like, I'm going to out myself a little here, but you know, when we had all the interns through the years, we started talking about camp. We'll end talking about camp. The interns I saw a ton of potential in. A lot of times I was the hardest on. You're like, yeah, I know. Yeah. I was the most direct.
To put it lightly.
I was the most honest. I was the most cutting. And the ones that I was just like, either they're not going to get it, or I don't see the potential. They're not invaluable people. I mean, they're valuable. They're loved by God. Nothing like that. But I would not bother myself with dealing with things with them as much. It was like, but this person, Gunnar Franks, I saw Pastor Gunnar Franks in, and I don't know that I saw you planting a church at that point in time, but I saw a lot in you. Yeah. And so it probably felt like a lot of times this guy hates me and he is breathing down my neck. He's jumping on me with his talent. What are we doing here? But it was like me identifying something in you. And likewise, man, so when the Lord starts messing with me about stuff, I kind of can see it from that framework. It excites me because, man, he's doing a work. Yeah. Let's go. Let's get it killed. Let's get it dealt with. Because there's something good and valuable in this.
Right.
So, all right, we probably need to end. We've gone over time. Thank you for listening. We'd love to have you with us this Sunday. We're continuing in our Jesus Said It series. Again, subscribe, like, rate, review, comment, do all the things, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.